Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the continuing live coverage from the Curling Stadium Martensville International. My name is Sean Joyce. I'm joined once again by Matthew Hall, and we've got women's action for you tonight. A couple of Saskatchewan teams playing here not far from home for either one of them. Ashley Howard facing the Lorraine Schneider foursome. Both teams registered out of Regina, so just a short trip down the highway. And Matt, both of these teams come into this game tonight having struggled a little bit so far in this competition.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy field for sure. Looking back at some of their games, Ashley Howard has lost to Clancy Grandy, Silvana Tiranzoni, and Jennifer Jones. So, bit of a tough road there. But Lorraine Schneider, not all that much easier, losing to Jennifer Jones and Daniela Jentsch out of Germany. So, these two teams have sort of came up against very tough opponents to start. But both of them looking for their first win tonight. And I think this is definitely looking at the standings. Obviously, a very important game for both of these teams to win to try and keep themselves alive looking towards the playoffs on Monday.
Yeah, I was looking at the standings prior to going on the air, and we were talking a little bit just before we went to air. Ashley Howard at 3 losses, not out of this yet. 12 teams in the women's fields. Top 6 will make the playoffs. You're playing 5 preliminary round games, so 3 and 2 should get you a piece of something. But the way the standings are falling right now, 3 losses is not necessarily out of the competition. There's 3 women's games on tonight. 2 teams already have 3 losses, but by the time the games finish tonight, there could be as many as 5 already sitting at 3 losses.
Absolutely. 3 losses does not have you mathematically out, although it's not a position you want to be in. So perhaps Lorraine Schneider, with only 2 losses at the moment, might be in the better position overall in the standings right now if she comes
Yep.
out with the win. But for sure, if Ashley Howard is able to pull it out and move to 1 and 3, she's still alive even with 1 game remaining. It's now she'll need a lot of help, obviously, but still mathematically in the running and still something to play for sure.
And of course, the one thing we know for sure, 4 losses isn't going to do it.
No, so if you're Ashley Howard, this very much is a must-win game. Lorraine Schneider, not mathematically, but you don't want to drop to that 3rd loss. We'll just say that.
Well, the attempted come around on the corner guard there comes up a little bit short of the rings. It gives the Howard team a chance to see if they can't use that center guard.
Still a little bit, still usable though. It is basically a second corner guard, and it'll be up to the Howard team if they can place their rocks effectively. They won't give Lorraine's team the chance to use those corner guards, but if you ever got a miss, it's something that you can draw around again.
Come around, makes it into the 12-foot, but needed a little bit more on the distance to get behind the guard. It's still mostly open. Lorraine Schneider skips this team, but she actually throws the 3rd stones. So it'll be Larissa Murray holding the broom for her.
Definitely a position where you could go around that corner guard again, considering you tried to do it on the last one. That rock top 12 doesn't really cut down the scoring area anymore, but it does block the path to the button. So likely just playing the hit here to make sure she has a path to the 4-foot with her last shot if she needs it.
And First India always like to keep that blank possibility alive. It looked like they were just signaling the hit and roll over. I don't think they were trying for the double here. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I believe she just wants to sort of hit and roll on top of that other blue, try and make sure you can stay shot if you can, but even just sticking around the rings forces Ashley to think about it, although they let this one curl up. Maybe they were maybe called an audible to try and roll behind the center.
Well, by getting the nose hit, she might be shot rock. Ashley's going to have to take a look.
Not only that, if Ashley does hit on the nose, it looks like it might carry through to be in, but it's possible that it'll be out of the rings, and then Lorraine can hit the one on the wings to keep that blank alive.
This is a new squad for Ashley Howard this year. You see a lot of that on the tour as the quadrennial starts. The Schneider team is actually the exact same roster she had last year for Ashley Howard. She's picked up Carrie Ann McTaggart as an import to throw the 3rd stones this year. and has a very young front end, Sarah Englund. They're very young to me. They may not feel that way. Sarah Englund playing second and Shelby Brandt at lead.
Must be something in the Saskatchewan water. I think Flash and Schneider might be the only two teams here that have the same lineups as last year.
Oh, and there's a Schneider on both of them, so maybe they're just easier to get along with than.
Rock does end up getting that nose hit. It's difficult to see whether or not it's in, but just based on the fact that they're not looking at hitting that rock in the wings and keeping the blanket, they must think that it is in the rings.
Like they're pointing it, but I think they were debating going the aggressive call coming around there because those two blues, I think it's out of the rings, but it is hard to tell from the overhead. They debated going around it because it's overlapped. He's going to try the hit and roll in behind. The problem with that is this rock is far enough back that if you make the roll behind cover now, you'll be behind the tee line.
Right, and with those now basically staggered center guards, it gives Howard the opportunity to just draw down and freeze to it if you are behind the tee line and basically get a pretty easy force. So I think if that rock is out and I was Lorraine, I might think a little bit more about just trying to stay in the open. If they're going to make the hit, make Howard do it, and it's a very difficult shot, so you'll probably have a good chance at the blank either way.
Now they're going to have to go on the brush just to hold the rings here. Gets the nose hit, stays right there. Now, I'm just watching them discuss, and this is a thing that you wonder if being 0-2 versus 0-3 has something to do with this. Ashley Howard looking at potentially ignoring that stone, but I think she's going back to the hit. A few indications for both of these teams here, though, in this first end, that they might be looking for opportunities to be aggressive.
Absolutely. I think just from I think they've all sort of decided to eventually go with the defensive call, but there were a couple times where it looked like they were really thinking about maybe putting the pedal down, like when you said they were talking about drawing around the center or hitting and rolling behind. It kind of, I think, indicates that they realize their backs are against the wall, and whether, you know, they may take an end or two to get comfortable with the ice surface, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some fireworks later on.
Well, this is third game for the Schneider team and the fourth for the Howard team. Even if things aren't going their way, they've seen the ice plenty. They've got an idea what it does, and you can bury behind. You take those two blue stones in the middle, for instance. You could bury around those. They are playing it. They're playing a tap or a split, one or the other. Looks like the straight tap. Aggressive call.
Right over curl. Well, I don't know about you. I am a little bit surprised at that. I think if you were going to be aggressive, you probably had enough room to draw on both sides rather than the tap. Just seems maybe a little bit of a tougher shot that you didn't have to take on in the first end. If you wanted to be aggressive, it seemed like there were some easier options, but could be a sheet that they've played on a couple times and they know that spot in the ice.
I would agree with that. And again, we don't have mics on the players, so we can only speculate. But I just wonder if perhaps they were thinking that they only wanted to tap that back about 1.5 feet, just far enough to be shot. Because, yes, you're right, you can make the draw, but we've also seen if you make a draw around a guard like that, a lot of times you can get at it with hack weight. So maybe they only wanted to tap it about 1.5 feet, so there wasn't much separation between the guards. We can only speculate. Regardless, she rubs the high guard, does get into the rings. Now, an attempt at the hit here, and I think if they nose this one, they're in the house. Certainly looks like if they nose it, they're in the house.
Yep, and it will be a very thin double that they'll leave after a nose hit.
Ashley make the hit and roll in on that V-shot rock. That's the shot they're looking at. I don't know if she can get shot rock off it or not.
I think she can. If you roll in underneath, it seems to me like you don't really need to go that far. If your nose hitting, you're already a quarter or so in the rings, and you only need to be about just more than half. So if you roll in behind that guard, I think you will be shot stone. So it will be the intern hit and roll attempt here by Ashley Howard. Trying to avoid going down a couple points here in the early going. Definitely need this to curl though. Ends up maybe a quarter or a third buried. Certainly leaves the chance here to maybe make a little bit of an easy tap to get that, or lightweight hit to get that rock out of the rings for Lorraine Schneider. It's going to be tricky. It looks like you never want to rub that blue guard and push it in for two. But it looks like it is makeable. If you hit about 2/3 with hack, you should spin into the rings. So they're having a short discussion here, but it looks like they are talking about playing that hit. These are always tricky, especially early on in the game, the first end. You don't know this spot really well. You have a tendency to play this a little bit safe because you never want to end up tapping that guard, pushing it in with the amount of weight that you have to throw. That's very easy to do. So you end up throwing this sometimes a little bit safe, and if you're ever on the wide side, you're not hitting enough of that rock to push it out of the rings to score at all. So definitely a steal is a possibility here. Final shot here coming from the Schneider team. Four-stone thrower Larissa Murray. Sweepers are on it. They're trying to hold it straight. And wow, looks like they did just whisker that really tight guard, but just enough are still able to remove the shot stone, but unfortunately lose their shooter. So they'll take a single point. It'll be a 1-0 lead for Lorraine Schneider going into the second end.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities. Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? You can get a grant to help. We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. It's easy. SaskTel has already given away tens of thousands of dollars. There have been lots of great ideas, including kids giving cookies to others, a group set up to welcome newcomers to their school, random acts of kindness, and so much more. The ideas and opportunities are endless. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
Welcome back as we begin the second end of play. Lorraine Schneider with a 1-0 lead against Ashley Howard. As we take a quick look around the rest of the club, on sheet A, we have Dallin Myers playing against Riku Yanagisawa. Both teams having an interesting tournament so far. Dallin Myers with a 1-2 record, and Yanagisawa with 2-1, with a big final end win over Mike McEwen yesterday. So really trying to ride a bit of that confidence forward. On the other two games are both women's games. We have Brett Barber out of Saskatchewan playing Christy Watling out of Manitoba, and Seung Yoon Ha coming off a final end loss to Team Gim playing Chelsea Carey out of Manitoba.
This is something you don't see as much anymore in these events. The play coming into the rings early, and we've seen a rollout already.
And maybe getting a little spooked by that last end, possibly. Ashley Howard trying to take the opportunity on both of her shots to get a little bit aggressive, tried to make a little tap and then a roll behind the center, and was somehow able to squeak away with only giving up a single, was able to just roll enough to force Lorraine Schneider into a tough shot. So maybe want to sort of get their feet underneath them a little bit, and decided to hit the rock in the rings.
You have to think with the Schneider team, well, if they were willing to bring the play into the rings to start the end, they're content to play this one through fairly open. Typically, with a lot of these teams on tour nowadays, you see them very conscious of trying to keep and perhaps use that last rock in the even ends. So really, if one team or the other was going to force the play here a little bit, you would think it might be the Howard team.
Absolutely.
Talking about playing the corner guard now, the problem with playing it now is the free guard zone is over.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw up the corner guard. Lorraine Schneider will probably just hit the one in the rings, I would imagine. So you could just ignore it and play a bit more aggressive and go around the corner, but I would think if they were just going to hit those first couple stones in the rings, they are probably a bit more content with just drawing the side of the rings and forcing Lorraine Schneider to come up with the double.
That would make more sense if you're gonna play it into the rings. And yes, if you're gonna try to get a deuce, you're asking to hold two rocks in the rings for a long time. But if you play the corner guard now, you might never get a chance to use it. And boy, if you can place the draws that well, no double there.
Yep, so it'll be a case of Team Schneider just trying to group these stones as much as possible. So obviously there's no double right now, but if you can roll a couple shots towards the other stone, and if you ever get a nose hit by Ashley Howard, then you'll have the opportunity to maybe have a double vice stones or skip shots. With both of these teams out of Regina, I would imagine they are fairly familiar with each other. Likely played against each other a number of times in the past.
It's funny that you mention that, because I can tell you a story. It has nothing to do about these teams. It does have to do with Jamie Schneider.
Well, go right ahead then.
doing a game one time in Regina. It was an event final. He was playing against Randy Bryden. Two well-known Regina teams, both been around for a long time. But in the rink they were in, it set up where they had room apart from each other just to get ready before the game. And so I thought I would be a smart aleck. Went over and asked the Schneider team if they played these guys before. And it wasn't Jamie that spoke up, it was actually Rick. That would be the uncle for Lorraine. And he said, oh, we might have played them once or twice. And I went over to the other side of the rink thinking, okay, I'll ask the same question. I said to Randy, have you ever played these guys before? And he didn't miss a beat. He just said, not today.
Yeah, I certainly know the feeling out of being out of Ontario, there's those teams that you just play against a ton, that you just somehow seem to run into in every event. No matter what the schedule is, you always end up playing them. So certainly know that feeling. Looking
But
back,
go
in
all
ahead.
seriousness, it matters to these two teams. Even though this is early in the season, we did have some turnover in the Saskatchewan women's field this year. Chelsea Carey's team played out of Saskatchewan last year. They're playing out of Manitoba this year. Sherry Anderson retired. Robin Silvernagel is not playing this year, and her team had 2 players that were living in Alberta. The player they picked up is out of Alberta, so they're playing registered out of Alberta this year. 3 of our top 5 seeds from last year aren't here. Penny Barker will, of course, be returning and likely amongst the favorites, but the rest of those Saskatchewan teams, the teams that were in the field, they're all fighting for potentially a chance to represent the province. And that fight, yes, granted the provincial championships at the end of January, but these are the teams you're going to have to beat at that time, and this is your chance to see how you measure up.
Absolutely, and we also see another Saskatchewan team in the event, Nancy Martin, off to a really good start. She's sitting at 3-1, so as you said, this is really an opportunity for them to sort of jockey for position in the provincial ranks, let alone just this tournament. So if you want to sort of establish yourself, get a couple wins against these guys early, and then hopefully once it comes to your provincials, you have a little bit of confidence going into playing them in an arguably bigger game.
Well, nice hit and roll there to start to get those rocks through. It is getting late in the end, but maybe a chance for a double in the next one. Should really start thinking about a double. Carrie-Ann McTaggart having to make the hit and stay. Doesn't have a lot of room to roll either.
Shouldn't do too much here.
And that will roll out of the rings, so an open hit now. And we might be looking at an exchange of stones for a blank end.
Yeah, big, little bit of a missed opportunity by Carrie-Ann. Of course, still plenty of game to go, 6 ends to go after this, so I'm sure they'll get some more opportunities for 2s, but those are really the ones that I think sometimes get to you a little bit. There's nothing all that difficult about that shot, especially for someone like Carrie-Ann. Who's played on the tour for so long. She has that skill set. She's made that shot so many times, and whether it's just a little lapse or just an iffy throw, it gets away from you. And those are sort of points that you leave on the board that you kind of think back to at the end of the game if it doesn't go your way. So Team Schneider wasting no time, just coming down here trying to make the nose hit, stick around. They will make contact, but just roll out of the ring. So another opportunity for Team Howard to get a free draw wherever she wants and get a feel for that draw weight.
This is one where if it was later in the game and you were hoping for a cheap deuce and a mistake, you might draw to the corner, but well, looks like that's what she was going to do. It looked like she was going to play that draw towards the middle, and sometimes you see a skip. Just want to make sure I got a feel for draw weight to the button in case we need it, but she is going to go towards the corner here. One quick ask from the third. Of course, this is a new team this year. She was asking which corner they were going to, I think. You're okay if this stone comes a little deep as well, because you expect fourth thrower Larissa Murray to make the nose hit. So when you try to blank, the shorter you have to roll out, the better.
Absolutely. The only thing you really don't want to do with this shot is leave a guard and give Schneider the opportunity to draw around it. Even if you want to make the shot, even if it slipped through the rings, it's still a wide open house. You're still playing for the blank. You still get the opportunity to learn something about the speed.
As the third brusher comes out to join it, did you jinx them a little bit?
It's not my fault. Don't turn this around on me. They'll get it there. They're fine.
That front end is young, so they'll get it. They'll get a lot of rocks there for her.
And
I feel like I can say that I have equipment that I still use that's older than probably about 5 of the players on the sheet.
Well, it's an interesting schedule too, looking at it. There's some teams that have really big breaks, like almost, I don't know if anybody gets a whole day off, but it certainly seems that way sometimes looking at some of the schedules. And there's a lot of back-to-back games too. So, for example, looking at a team like Sung Yun Ha, who just came off an 8-end game against Yoonji Kim, and now she's right back on again against Chelsea Carey. So that's 16 ends of curling, possibly more if you play some extras. The physicality is an important part in it.
And somehow that seems worse in September.
Oh, and
Well, yeah. Not the miss they would have expected. Perhaps a broomside rollout, but actually over curls, just gets a rub of that stone and leaves it in play. And if you want to talk about your cheap deuces.
and again, just another. Both of these teams have had a couple games on the sheets. They should know how much curls out here. I know we talked about that in the last game too, when we were watching Flash, just how much curl we're getting out of here. But it tends to stay a little bit straighter with the upweight. A lot of the curl seems to be late, so maybe just turn that over a little bit or pinch the broom just a hair. Either way, whatever you want to call it, it's a chance, wide open chance for Ashley Howard here to just hit paint and score her 2 points and take the lead right back.
And because she did draw to the corner on the first one and just made full 12, she wants a little bit more rings to draw to here. Going to come towards the middle, but by playing this pass, she's going to come through most of the sheet on the same pass she was just in. Just at the end, she'll be in the slide path instead of out in the wings. Just pick it up early, but just a cleaning.
The third sweeper's not running out this time, so they should be fine.
Clean that one all the way in, and she does pick up her 2 points here. Ashley Howard with a bit of a gift deuce in the second end, but she'll take it. That gives her a 1 point lead over Lorraine Schneider as they go into the third.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? You can get a grant to help. We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. It's easy. SaskTel has already given away tens of thousands of dollars. There have been lots of great ideas, including kids giving cookies to others, a group set up to welcome newcomers to their school, random acts of kindness, and so much more. The ideas and opportunities are endless. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
This exact same shot. So the opportunity now to learn a little bit, make the slight adjustment. Obviously weight was pretty good, but if they can just tighten up the broom a hair, get it a bit more buried, put it in a better spot.
I thought they might actually make a play on the red one now. We're past the fifth rock. And yes, it is close to center, but it's your opposition stone, and it's in a really powerful spot.
Absolutely. You want to make sure there is a good amount of separation here. So try and put it top four, make that run back a little bit tougher on the Schneider team, but It's not a terrible spot. It does leave the opportunity for Team Schneider to possibly hit and roll under their own color.
I think you go the other way. I think you roll towards the wings, and you might get the over-the-top double on the back blue line. If you can make the over-the-top double on this one rolling to the corner, and then Ashley hits it on the nose again, you've got rid of the shot rock of the back four. You could ignore a rock that she nose hits in the edge of the 12-foot.
Absolutely. I think that is probably the call you want to go with to hit and roll away. So we'll see.
Hit and still catch the double. Your two rocks, yes, they're close to center, but they're in pretty good spots. She's close here. Oh, they're going to just lose the line a little bit. Gets enough to get the double, though, but that's what I was just talking about. Yes, you've got two rocks near the center line, and that's not ideal for Schneider, but they're your rocks, and anything that came around those two, it's going to be a very short run back. Those are dangerous stones, really, for Ashley Howard to leave there.
Absolutely. This is a great setup for Team Schneider. Anything that Ashley does without getting rid of these, if she tries to draw around, you're always going to have a fairly makeable, pretty short run back for Lorraine. So instead going with trying to remove one of these stones and preferably stick around near the center line. If you can even leave them a little bit staggered, that's pretty good for without the hammer, to have some tight staggered guards and give yourself the opportunity to draw around later. Although I'm a bit surprised they didn't shoot.
Apologize for the technical difficulties. I think we're back now. One of these times when we have just a little glitch like that, I would love to come back and see somebody suddenly counting four, just so we had to explain it. Didn't happen here.
No, it looks like we just caught the tail end of possibly Lorraine throwing a... Looks like, I'm not sure, when we left, the corner guard was there. They had a rock top 12, so it's possible that she missed two draws into the rings and Ashley Howard hit and rolled out, or either way, we just caught the tail end of Lorraine just slipping through on that last draw. So wide open house and the opportunity for Ashley now to switch gears and perhaps wrap one around the corner guard to force a force of one on the Schneider team.
Yeah, I think we just saw the tail end of the draw going through, but to be honest, when it went black, we couldn't actually see how the rocks all ended up where they did. So
regardless, we're here now.
I can't even nudge anybody and see if they saw it either. So it looks like this is still Ashley's first stone.
Mm-hmm. Team Schneider will still have two rocks to come in, so there is the opportunity still to get a deuce, and Ashley needs to be a little bit careful here. Of course, never really want to draw around the corner guard without the hammer, but in this case it's sort of forced. There really isn't any other option. You just need to make sure that you keep this rock above the tee line. Slipping a little deep gives Team Schneider the opportunity to follow you down, freeze to you, and possibly set up a multiple score.
She probably didn't want it that far under cover either. It overbears a little bit on the red, as you can see from the hat camera view. And now there's room to corner freeze on that, get shot rock and still be buried. It's when you're going around the other team's corner, you don't even mind, peeking a little corner of yours out into the open, so that if they do play this corner freeze, you might be able to make a play on that stone. But that's actually a tough shot to make on this ice. It curls so hard to try and leave a rock just half buried.
Yeah, you'd love to, you'd be totally fine with leaving it a little bit open and forcing them to play a little cute hack weight pick out or something like that, but
this gives Larissa Murray a chance to basically just follow that stone down. She could sit on the inside corner of it. You might see Ashley Howard played a short angle run on the blue guard just outside the rings. Of course, this freeze has to be made before that's an issue. This looks like a lot of weight coming in.
I was just about to say, I think this is her first draw of the game. I'm sure she threw a couple in practice, but she hasn't thrown one since then, so it might be a bit of a guess.
Well, speaking of guesses, who's got shot rock? I think it's the blue.
I am going to agree with you there. I'm not willing to argue with you on that one.
The screen I'm working on, of course, I got a bigger view of the hack camera shot. My overhead view isn't very large, but it looks like the blue, which it doesn't really change the shot either way. Ashley's got a draw, but now she can split the house.
Absolutely. I was just about to say, I think if red was shot, you'd see her throwing sort of the similar draw as she just did. Maybe try and come down and just bump the red one a little bit to sit two, but...
Make sure you're sitting two, yeah, you could.
But with her already sitting shot, gives her the opportunity to split the rings, draw. You don't even need to be buried around the other corner. Just hit any part of the 8-foot and you're probably getting your one. Or forcing the other team, I mean.
Confirming with the front end about the weight. That might be the one thing I don't know. Of course, we had a few little technical issues here this end, so my recollection of which shots got played. Did anybody play this shot yet this end?
Not this end, although in the first end somebody did throw a draw to the wing, I think. It might have been the Schneider team. So this might be the first shot for this team down this path. It's unlikely that they threw this shot in practice, so just a quick discussion about what they're expecting to see so they can put it somewhere in the 8-foot.
Actually grabs the corner of the 4-foot. Big key there, she's deep enough, there's not a chance to play a double off that. It's behind the second shot stone. So Larissa Murray will... Looks like they're going to make the play on that stone. She's got all of it. Make the quiet wing hit and just stay right there.
Absolutely. I'm sure it would have been nice for Ashley if she could bury half that rock, maybe force Larissa Murray into a draw, but you never want to be too cute with those. Just make sure she gets it in the 8-foot. Leaves a wide open hit, but I think it's mission accomplished here if you're the Howard team, getting your force.
You're never too cute with it in the third end. If it was tied up coming home, you might even have used, in a game with time clocks, you might even use your timeout to decide how much of this do we want to bury. Is 3 inches, does she draw?
Absolutely.
Pressure's on this right away. They're going to have to go to hold the shooter by the guard. She'll make the contact, but going to roll away, and looks like that will be another steal. Quick look around the outside, and Lorraine Schneider concedes it is a steal of 1. Ashley Howard with a 3-1 lead now over Lorraine Schneider as we go into the 4th.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities. Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
Welcome back, everyone. Fourth in just about to get underway here. After the first stone already in rest in the back of the forefoot. Now a corner guard attempt. These leads got to start taking a longer break between ends or we're never going to see any of their shots.
It's like watching TSN or Sportsnet. They always cut in just around the second's first rock.
That's why the leads aren't famous.
This is pretty good too. 10. Should see a little more curl.
I think we're going to see a pretty standard setup here. Another Team Howard Stone slipping to the back of the back button to start, which is not the ideal outcome. So probably going to try and put a second rock in a better position here, likely top 8, and it'll be interesting to see now with that lead sort of slipping away, whether Lorraine Schneider will elect to throw up another guard or continue to play this slightly defensive strategy that we've seen from them in the first few ends. And question asked and answered, immediately calling the hit with no sort of hesitation. Are you a bit surprised by this? I know you might be a little bit more familiar with this team than I am.
Well, in this situation, no, I'm not that surprised. The middle's getting a little clogged up. That is a rock in the 8-foot. She's got a good corner guard, and really it's that corner guard that she's got is a halfway guard. It's tough to throw a second one without leaving a double peel. Not that you could play it just yet, but it's hard to leave those two, put a second guard without having them close together. Well, that's one of the keys, though. If you're going to play that shot, at least roll as wide as the guard. And if you roll out past it, which she did, when Ashley Howard plays this stone, no matter where she rolls, you're not worried about this rock.
Absolutely. I think we could both agree that whether you're going to play the hit or not, you have to stick around at the very least. That one just sort of hung on enough that it now forces Ashley to play out really wide, and then you probably get the free opportunity to sink around that corner guard.
Yeah, I would have to think it doesn't even matter where she rolls here. I might have rolled off the rings altogether. Certainly looks like it's off the rings. Stayed in play. So a chance now on second stones for Ashley Williamson to make the draw around the corner. Probably some scoreboard watching going on out there. We talked a little bit off the top about the fact that there's a number of teams here that are potentially facing their third loss, and of course Ashley Howard and Jolene Campbell, former teammates as well. Saw them chatting back there just before the last shot.
Absolutely, and well, as you bring that up, I just happened to look over at the other scores. So we have Christy Watling with a 3-1 lead over Brett Barber. Christy Watling, another team with 2 losses, trying to avoid their third. Team Ha out of Korea went down 2-1 versus Team Kerry, also in the third end. Team Ha, another one that they'll probably have a close eye on to see if they'll drop back to 3 losses. And then over on the men's side, we have Team Yanagisawa with a 3-1 lead over Dallin Myers in their third end of play.
One more result of that women's Ha Kerry game. I think both of those teams come in with 2 losses, so somebody's falling back to 3 on that sheet.
Yes, yeah, that is correct. So whether you're Ashley Howard, if you are able to hold on to this lead and come out with a win, you know somebody's gonna. Well, first of all, you'll be pulling Team Schneider back to 3 losses with you, you know one other team will also be at 3 losses, and I mean, best case scenario for you, you might be able to have Watling drop back as well. So definitely could be a bit of a logjam fighting for that final sixth
Yeah.
and final playoff spot.
Well, and there's still a few teams in the standings showing at 2 losses yet. So yeah, 3 doesn't have you eliminated. You need some help for those 3 loss teams. 2 of them on the ice tonight. Brett Barber and Ashley Howard in our game, both facing teams with 2 losses. They can both help themselves a little bit. It's always fun to watch those standings and see how they might fall.
Especially with final day of round robin action tomorrow. You definitely want to keep yourself in position before you move on to that last day. You never want to be eliminated with a day left to go.
Yeah.
So it looks like attempting to peel that guard, but doesn't quite roll out with the shooter. Leaves another corner guard. So the opportunity for Lorraine to possibly just draw around that, or maybe play the. Oh, she will go with the draw. I was thinking you might be able to just play the hit and roll to that side and sit two, but probably a little bit early still would leave a good opportunity for Ashley to hit and roll and try and group some stones. And I don't think, well, you shouldn't be necessarily worried about that rock back button. You'll always have the chance to probably hit that with your skips first or last rock. So
Yeah, the only reason you'd really worry about that is if you leave her some kind of a hit where she's going to sit 2 and you'd have to play the double. If you get this buried, would think that Ashley will probably make a play on the open stone because she doesn't want to give up 3 here very bad. This has got a lot of room by the guard, and the sweepers have backed away a little bit. Now trying to sweep for a little bit extra curl, not worried about so much as it goes back. They want to get it buried.
and I think even if you got it buried, but it was deep, you might see Ashley just walk over to the other side of the rings and hit the other stone. So it would be a bit more accessible, but it looks like they might have left it mostly open.
I think it's a piece behind cover, and it's definitely behind the tee line. So you make a play on the open stone, try to roll over in that direction. You actually might accomplish a couple of things here. You know, the double, whether you play it on purpose or get it by accident, it's not out of the question here either. It's about half a rock for the double. It's not a.
Now, these kinds of shots are all about weight control. Choose the right weight where you'll never roll out over the top of that second rock.
Exactly.
You'd love to roll at least past the center line, get that blue stone towards that red rock, but throw a weight where you're never going to miss it over the top too thick. If you end up hitting it too thin, you can always spin up off your own. But it looks like they're just going to get a nose hit here.
Swept that like they were playing for the nose all the way. I thought they'd at least try to roll in for second shot and force her to make a play on something. Looks like she's going to make a play on the back one now.
You have to be a bit careful. Those rocks are fairly close together. So if you end up just hitting this on the nose, it'll leave a pretty makeable half rock double for Team Howard. So you'd like to roll this at least possibly 2 or 3 rocks to the left side as we look at it from the overhead.
Really, this is the problem with being deep on that last attempt is that, if you were in front of the tee line on the last one, even if it's only half buried like it is, you could actually throw a draw again. If you played the draw now, you might just force her to freeze that back one, and then your end is gone.
Sweeper on it early here. Definitely want to make sure they roll away.
Yeah, they're not hitting on the side to roll as far as they'd like. Well, maybe if rolled enough. Now, here's what I know. I've seen Ashley for a number of years. She's been out here in Saskatchewan for a number of years now. She can throw it hard.
Can she
They're
throw
going
it
to
that
look at
hard?
it. Well, when you make contact, you're still splitting the tee line. So she'd have to hit about 2/3 to get into the side of that. And we saw a couple of rocks in a draw earlier this afternoon. and going straight out the side. They didn't kick as far as we thought they were going to, so I don't know that this is there. She might just be looking for nose hit here, and if you can exchange nose hits, there'll be a double attempt on your last one.
Absolutely. I think even if you roll towards it, like choose a nice controllable weight where nose is good, because if they nose, it leaves a double, or you roll a few rocks towards it and make it more difficult for the Schneider team to try and get some separation.
Ashley Howard with her first stone here of the fourth end, leading by 2, without last rock, facing 2. Nothing out of the brushers, now looking to get a little extra curl on this stone. Makes the hit. She's actually going to roll to the outside and hangs onto the 12-foot, but it's too far to be shot rock.
Now here's a big question. Of course, you could draw to the open side, and likely you'll probably get your 2 that way unless you leave some cross-house double, but that would be difficult to do. If you wanted to be a bit more aggressive, you could try and sink one around the guard, but as you just said on the last shot, or the shot before that, it almost forces Ashley Howard to play that freeze on the backing, and she could take everything away from you.
Yeah, that would be my concern here, and it does look like that might be the direction they're going. But, you know, that draw sitting in the back 8-foot, that rock is not, it's definitely not fully buried, and it's back of the tee line. It wasn't in a great spot, let's be honest. And if you dead bury this one, you'll leave her a corner of that one to freeze to, and your end could be gone.
Right. She doesn't even have to make the freeze perfectly. If she just gets it close enough to that red stone where you'd have to pick it and lose your shooter, that's still a force. So either way, the call seems to be you'd want to be around like top 4, top 8, dead buried around the guard, and if she makes the freeze, she makes the freeze, but it's not an easy shot.
Do you want to be dead buried, or do you want to be dead lined up to the red one at the back of the 8 and just nibble the top of the 8? The one thing is it's really hard from this overhead view to tell how much of that rock did you see from the house.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking it looks to me like it might be sort of half buried, and if that's the case, I probably would want to dead bury this. If it's sort of just edge on edge with the guard, they can just see all of it, then definitely don't want to be right in front of it and leave double, although that is certainly not what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I don't think she wanted to stagger guard it.
No, and now the freeze is a lot easier for Ashley Howard, and if she makes it, it will for sure be a force situation.
They have had their struggles with the draw weight so far in this game. Had 2 attempts to draw around the corner last end, one through the house and one back 12 that didn't stop in time to be shot rock.
Yeah,
the draw attempt here, back 8 when they needed to be in front of the tee line and buried, and they're not missing by a lot, but at this level, that's enough.
Yeah, it just seems like Team Schneider is just struggling to really get a handle on the ice. We saw them, not only just their draws, we saw a flash in the second end that gifted a 2 to Team Howard. Had opportunity on a slightly tough shot in the first end for 2, but it was there, and they just over curled on that one as well. So could be a communication thing, could be just sort of early your jitters still getting their feet underneath them. Either way, it's a freeze attempt here for Ashley Howard to try and take the end away.
They seem to be cleaning it. I don't think the weight's close, waiting on a line call. Lots of room by the guards.
As we saw, there is lots of finish at the end as long as the weight is good.
Yeah, they backed away at the hog line. This might be a little stronger than what they thought. And it will slide a little bit too deep through the back. Even that one, it didn't look like the brushers thought it was heavy. They were just cleaning, but they were close to it the whole way down. It really wasn't until the hog line that they stood up and I don't know whether anybody yelled watch your feet or not, but it slides a little too deep on them.
Could be one of their. Could it be one of those situations where Larissa Murray came up light and as she's sliding by, happens to
Yeah.
say just loud enough for Ashley to hear. Wow, it's a little slow there.
Well, I don't know if it would be that. I don't know that there's that kind of gamesmanship out there, but it certainly could have been a spot where they looked at Larissa Maurice and thought they had to throw a little bit more weight. Now, Ashley didn't end up coming through the same path. Her rock didn't curl the same as Larissa's, so she stayed more down the middle.
Yeah, and I think that's more the line you want to take. I mean, as you can see where the rock ended up, Ashley's stone was on the perfect line. Just, you know, if that's 3-4 feet lighter, it's corner frozen dead on that stone. So,
well, another opportunity for Larissa Murray. Needs to draw a full 8 foot here with her final stone. Pick up the deuce. The brushers picked this one up right out of her hand. Haven't left it yet. Needs full 8 foot to get the deuce. Lorraine Schneider coming out to join them. Well, the brushers gave it everything they had. It's not quite enough. Going to come up a little bit short, so it'll be just a single point for the Schneider team here in the fourth end. Ashley Howard with a 3-2 lead. She'll have last rock in the fifth.
The reason we trust Western Sales with our business is the people. I'm sure that there's 100 years experience coming out of that shop. We trust them because we do a CMI on our combine and on our tractor. When our equipment comes out of Western Sales, it's going to be good, because if it's not, they send us another combine, they send us another tractor, and we're not naive to the fact that that probably costs them a lot of money. So we just know that the service that we're getting at Western Sales is above par to everybody else.
We asked Saskatchewan what they know about 5G.
More speed, more innovation.
It's gonna make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier.
This is what 5G looks like.
Better, faster.
Sounds like one more G. Sounds pretty good.
I don't know what it means.
All you really need to know is the future of 5G is here and will continue improving through investments in network technology.
Well, the leads must have hurt us because they got back here in time to see the lead stones. Sean Joyce, Matthew Hall with you from the Curling Stadium Martensville International. Ashley Howard with a 3-2 lead as we begin the fifth end here, and she does have last rock. Schneider team throwing up the center guard. 8 end games here in Martensville. No time clocks at this particular event.
Sort of looking back on maybe the lessons learned in the first 4 ends, I think both teams can be a little bit sharper here in the back half. For sure, I think when you look at the scoreboard and your team Schneider, you can definitely think specifically in that last end leaving a point off the board, but a couple other flashes and shot misses like that led to Ashley Howard taking this lead coming into the back half, but it's not like Howard's team has maybe been perfect either. It's definitely a couple rock placement issues on both sides, and I think it'll really come down to which team sort of sharpens up a little bit more in these last 4 ends as to who will come home with the win.
Well, this is started an end that we haven't seen yet. We've seen the center guard go up and the come around made, and we've seen a little bit more open play to start the ends so far.
Definitely, it's for sure advantage Howard here moving into the back half. Being up a point with the hammer, Lorraine Schneider might decide to push things a little bit more, try and force Ashley into some more uncomfortable shot making. Maybe get a force. If you're lucky, you can get a steal out of it and sort of claw your way back into this.
Just a little bit strong on that attempt. I mean, it looks okay because she bumped that stone, but that leaves her shooter out in the open and a chance for Shelby Brandt to make a play on it. You just wanted to corner freeze there. If you were going to bump, you had to be a lot closer to the nose so that they didn't have room to pass this by the blue.
Absolutely. You've seen the curl is there. You can definitely get up to the nose of this stone. Remove it. Although they are working.
She's out there a long ways, and this is a lot of weight for the broom that she had.
And whether that was just a bit of miscommunication about the kind of weight she wanted to see, or just a plain overthrow. Ball's back in Team Schneider's court now. The opportunity to, you could remove that blue stone, roll behind the center, although that red stone is still right where it was, so they would give Team Howard the same opportunity.
Could straight freeze to it again.
That's kind of what I was thinking. It might be, or
I
even
get
not
what
a
he's
freeze,
thinking
even if
here.
you sort of just bump it to the back of the button and give yourself something to freeze to later.
The only problem is if you play the bump and you happen to bump off center and roll open a little bit, you give them a chance to hit and roll back underneath. I don't think you want to worry about moving this blue one too early in the end. And this looks like they're, if they get by the guard at all, they were going to move it more than a little. Well, a little fortunate there. Didn't move the guard very far, and actually when they did, gave their own stone at the top lead, put a little bit of protection, and perhaps more importantly, kept the shooter in the side of the 12-foot, which at the very least could be a rock that helps you get a force here and get the last rock back. Five rocks already played, so Ashley Howard looking at, discussed briefly maybe getting the guard, but going to make a play on the rock in the rings.
And I think I like that call. I mean, when you think about, especially the shot Ashley threw last end, it was on this side of the sheet. Now, granted, it was more to the wing rather than to the center, but with that guard moving to the other side of the sheet, it does leave the right side as we look at the overhead open for her last shot if she ever needed to. Now, that might be a little bit of an interesting outcome ending up on the nose. Certainly leaves Lorraine the opportunity to maybe hit and roll behind.
Yeah, that seems like that would be the call here.
Sort of caught in between there a little bit. I think if you were going to hit the one in the rings, you would have liked to roll away to the wing, or maybe even miss that a little bit tighter and at least get the guard. But unfortunately, just sort of caught in between, squeaks by the guard and leaves an opportunity here.
Makes the hit, but it rolls further out into the open. Interesting contrast there just on those last two shots when Ashley might have got a little more curl than she wanted, and Lorraine Schneider looking to curl past that and get the roll underneath. They come up a little shy on that side and roll open. And again, we can't hear the players, and I'm not familiar with their weight signal, so we don't know if the throwers are necessarily matching the weight to the broom that was put down either.
You did say this was a new squad for Ashley Howard, so it could be possibly getting used to how her teammates throw the stones a little bit too. Maybe just trying to figure out where the broom needs to come down for them. Either way, at the end of the day, they're sitting two, so they can't be
They're sitting two now, and they're spread out now, so
it's going to be difficult. I mean, you could see Lorraine Schneider could at some point decide to, quote unquote, put things on the line and try and sink one around those sort of center rocks. But I think for the time being, she's more than happy just to keep taking a go at this hit and roll.
The struggles they've had so far with draw weight, I don't think she'll take that chance here. And I know what you're looking at. That out-turn draw, certainly from what we've seen on the ice, it almost looks juicy, doesn't it? But when you've struggled with your draw weight so far in the game, and you'd be facing a deuce if you missed it, I don't know that they'll take that chance here.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking with.
Now they're struggling with their line on the hits, as again, they hit broom side and roll out.
Yeah, I think that draw might be something you play, you know, if you have to put the game on the line, if it was maybe one of the later ends or you had to steal sort of the 8th, but maybe, yeah, just a little bit early. I'm sure if she had to play a draw, she'd like maybe another free go to try and get her draw weight underneath her.
Yeah, you know, I think there's teams in this competition that if they felt like they had draw weight in their back pocket, because of how much this ice curls, they might play that draw. But you have to think right now, Larissa Murray can't possibly have that much confidence in her draw weight. For now, Ashley Howard, a chance to again draw towards the wing, try to keep the play away from those two in the middle. Taggart comes up just a little bit short.
Seems like there's been some draw weight issues on both sides.
Well, there has, for sure. I mean, Larissa Murray didn't get the chance to deuce last end if Ashley Howard wasn't heavy on her last stone. Now, the one thing I'll say about that, too, of course, the draws that, you know, I think it was Lorraine came to the back 8 foot first last end, and then Ashley later on in the end coming a little too deep, but neither of those stones were right down the middle. They were basically drawing towards the corner of the 4 foot, corner of the 8. And that's a shot, like you said, they don't really play that in practice, and you don't get a lot of chances to play it in the game. It could be coming down to the fact that they're not 100% sure of the pass, and the pass might be different. Here, it's a draw to the corner, and in this particular game, I don't remember, we played the third end towards the other corner. I don't know if anybody's really thrown a draw towards that wing yet. They might be getting caught a little bit with the pass.
Yeah, the only one I can think of was the last shot in the third for Ashley Howard when she was splitting the rings, but that was a bit more down center and sort of came off the center line at the end. Just looking back at the last games for these teams, Ashley Howard did have one night game. She played Jennifer Jones, and she did lose that game 10-1. Not to say that there's any issues with the ice, but sometimes when you get to sort of the end of a long day and the ice crew hasn't had the chance to maybe do as much maintenance as they would like, you can sometimes see the ice will tend to fudge a little bit. Although, that being said, that was a great shot there by Lorraine Schneider to hit and roll behind that corner guard.
I have to say, when you brought up the night games, that's not where I thought you were going. I thought you were suggesting these girls were all so young that past their bedtime.
Well, I guess that's certainly possible too. I wasn't gonna say it. I'll let you take the flack for that one, but I'm just gonna make no comment on that one. So Ashley trying to find some way to generate a deuce here, asking Carrie Ann to draw around the center guard a bit. Sen's starting to look a little bit backwards. The team without Hammer with 2 rocks way out on the rings, and the team with Hammer drawn around what's pretty close to a center guard, although there's not really many other options for them.
Found the weight this time, but not the line. That stone stays completely out in the open, and it looks to be enough room that Larissa Murray, we're on to skip stones now. Larissa Murray throwing the last stones for this team. Should have enough room, I think, to roll under her own guard here. Now, they've struggled with the line on these hits, too, and again, we can't hear them, so we don't know whether that's been a question of the throwers not necessarily throwing the exact weight that was called. We'll see if she can match it up this time, get the roll. You get one good roll here, and yeah, we've talked about it. They've struggled a little bit through the early 4 ends, but you could suddenly put some pressure on Ashley Howard, and that could be just what the Schneider team needs to get a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, regardless of how much you struggled, you always got to know that, you know, you play 4 ends of curling against someone, you're probably going to get a shot somewhere that really allows you to pour the pressure on them. And I think this is it right here for the Schneider team. So we'll see if they can capitalize and force Ashley into something a bit cuter with their last 2.
Knocking out of the brushes so far, and now sweeping for the curl. And this has been the problem for the Schneider team this whole end. They've under-curled every one of these hits. And again, not the curl they would have liked. They would like to get under the center. It does roll over to the corner again.
And I think it's tough to say, but it looks like they're throwing some pretty good weight at these shots too. It could be something where they should have a meeting as a team and maybe talk about bringing the weight down a little bit more.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm wondering is the weight that they're throwing, because it doesn't seem to match the broom they're putting down. They're putting down broom for, you know, I'm expecting bumper weight, and they're throwing a good controlled hit anyway.
And when you bring that weight down a little bit, it just gives your sweepers that little bit more of an opportunity to work with it. Even if it is a little bit too much ice and they need the opportunity to try and make it curl, with a little less weight, they have a bit more time to do that. So it'll be interesting to see if they make that adjustment going forward, or it might just be something they discuss after the game. But Ashley Howard with a chance to learn from her vice and make this draw really good.
Still facing 3 here, and if you don't get this one buried, you could be looking at 4 with your last one. And we're just cleaning early, but Carrie Ann seemed to be indicating it's got a lot of room yet. Only tighter to the guard than Carrie Ann was on hers.
I think we'll see this one get fairly well buried. It's more a question of the weight's good now.
It just won't stop sliding. It actually comes out a little bit on the open side.
If I had to say, I'd say that's maybe a foot too far than they would have liked it. Definitely the opportunity to, well, it depends what you're looking to do here if you're Lorraine Schneider. For sure, the opportunity is there. You could play the out-turn hit with hack weight, and you'd probably end up rolling to the side 8. And yes, you would be sitting 4, but 4 rocks that really is a skip at this level. You're probably not too worried about trying to outdraw, especially since you just made the draw on this one. So it's a bit of a question. Now, you never want to be drawing against 4 regardless, but it's a bit of a question. You could also just play a nice little freeze tap and maybe be in a bit of a better position to try and get your steal of 1.
If you're looking to steal, that's probably the shot you play, but you're really risking giving up another deuce by playing that.
Absolutely. It's definitely it's a tougher shot. You have to be a bit more precise, but it's the better if you're going to make one of those 2 shots and you're just kind of looking for your steal. I think the freeze is the call.
I think with the way they've been drawing so far this game, you play the hit.
Absolutely. You do have to, sometimes you have to be a bit more self-reflective, understand if you don't have the feel for the draw weight, just don't go for it. Just try and make this hit, and
you know, I think if she, because they talked about it, you could see them talking about it. If she felt like she had draw weight in her back pocket, I think she'd play it. I think she'd play the draw, but you can make a real good shot with the hack waiter here. If you flirt with the guard a little bit, we've seen these rocks finish really hard with hack weight. Now she might be beyond flirting with the guard. This started breaking earlier than they would have liked. Got to get by the front one. Not going to. Just rubs off that guard and rolls harmlessly out of play, and it's going to be another opportunity for Ashley Howard to simply draw full 8-foot for a deuce.
And I think you can see a little bit of visible frustration there from Larissa Marie. Definitely no shortage of opportunities for the Schneider team this game, and just have not really been able to capitalize on any of them. that's
the other
a
side
shot.
of the sheet, granted, but they appeared to have overthrown 3 different hits, or was it 4 even, this end, and rolled broomside on all of them. And on that particular shot, I don't know whether she threw it a little bit soft. Look, the weight was good hack weight. Certainly got moving early on them.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, you'd love to, if you flirt with that guard a little bit, you end up rolling behind, that's great. But with how much curl we've been seeing with a hack weight shot, the guard really shouldn't be in play all that often on that shot. You could still see a half rock on the outside, so you could get by that guard by probably a foot and still at least make the takeout and roll out into the open. So maybe just not adjusting well to what they're seeing on the ice. Regardless, it's draw for 2 here for Ashley Howard. The sweepers are on it early.
Looks like it's just a clean brush, though. They need full 8 foot. This should grind down as it starts to come into the middle. I think that slid a little farther than they thought it was going to, but does come to rest in the back 8 foot for her deuce. Ashley Howard now with a 5-2 lead over Lorraine Schneider as we go into the 6th end.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? You can get a grant to help. We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. It's easy. SaskTel has already given away tens of thousands of dollars. There have been lots of great ideas, including kids giving cookies to others, a group set up to welcome newcomers to their school, random acts of kindness, and so much more. The ideas and opportunities are endless. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
Sean Joyce with Matthew Hall. Happy to be bringing you this live coverage from the Curling Stadium Martensville International. Ashley Howard with a 5-2 lead over Lorraine Schneider. Through 5 ends of play, it'll be Schneider with last rock as we begin the 6th end here. And the first stone by Shelby Brandt being brought into the top 8 foot. Matthew, just to go back to that final stone we watched last end, and even something we were talking about earlier in the end, and starting to wonder, because we've seen some draws come up short, a few come deep, and I was wondering if it could have been passed. Even on that stone, the brushers were still cleaning that into the 12 foot, and it didn't stop until back 8. I don't think, and it looked like the Howard team was discussing it right after the end too, I don't think they thought that rock was going to slide that far.
No, they definitely seemed to be a little bit surprised, or at least they were on it for at least the first half of that, so they did not think that it was possibly going to be a little bit heavy. It is possible because it just curled off the rock that was in the ring, so it's possible they might have thought they had backing, and it just took a little bit of extra turn at the end.
We can't hear them, so we don't know if that was part of the communication.
Right, but either way, I mean, you never want to rely on that as a sweeper. I think if you're a sweeper there, you're not thinking about the backing, you're just sort of thinking of trying to put it on the tee line. So for sure that rock slipped at least 3, close to 4 feet past where they thought it was going to go. So it could be, an issue with they're just not figuring out what the different paths in the sheet are doing.
Paths have a little bit of a different speed, and it looks like we're going to have a free guard measure here. That corner guard attempt came very tight to the rings, and of course, if it's in, Ashley Howard can make a play on that stone. So they are allowed to get the 6-foot biter stick. Of course, if the 2 teams agree to it, they don't need the biter stick, but this is one where, this is the only time in the game where you'll see the team say, no, our rock is out of the rings.
Even if you're not sure, just say
Lorraine
it's out
Schneider
and leave it up to
did not want
them.
that in the rings. And it appears that it is out. Because if it wasn't, Ashley Howard would go hit it. So in that case, it's a great tight guard.
And I'm almost certain that we'll see another one Not a tight guard, but probably another high one on top of that next for
Yeah.
the Schneider team.
We don't have a statistician here, but I guess that's one of those shots where you can't give any points for that one until you see how the measurement works out.
Put the whole thing on pause.
It's either 4 or it's 0.
It's tough being the lead. Well, we have a quick minute here. Well, I'm sure we already know what the call is going to be. Taking a quick look at some of the other games, as I'm sure many of the fans of both of these teams are interested. Team Kerry taking a 4-1 lead, still in the fourth end over there against Team Ha.
You're going to be shaking your head. They're not calling the guard.
Oh my. Well, I'll finish up with this and then we can talk about that. So Christy Watling with a 6-1 lead. That's one that I'm sure both of these teams would have liked to see Brett Barber pull out, but it's looking like a nice, comfortable position for Christy Watling. And over on the men's side, Team Yanagisawa with a 4-3 lead in the fifth end against Dallin Myers. So now that that's done, let's talk about what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I just don't understand the call.
Yeah,
Three ends to play, you're down 3 points. I granted they've got two good rocks in the position in the middle, but you kind of scoreboard dictated. You gotta be a little bit aggressive here, aren't you?
Yeah, I think at some point you have to sort of take a step back and say, yes, they're two well-placed stones by the Howard team, but there's nothing you can really do about that right now. You have to take your opportunities to try and generate some points. And I mean, even right here, that rock top 4, it's not like Ashley is suddenly going to stop and just decide to guard it out of nowhere. With a 3-point lead, I think she will be content to try and walk up and peel some guards. So you'll have the opportunity to hit that rock later. That's not a rock that you necessarily need to deal with on lead stones or even your seconds first stone.
Second stones here. This to me is let's keep the blank alive play, and the blank doesn't do you any good. Makes the double, sits buried, but that'll leave a double back. That's such a tight guard, and boy, if Sarah England can make this, there might be nothing left in play after this shot.
And I mean, I'm just taking a quick look at the stats here, and I mean, obviously not in a great position, down 3 with only 3 ends to play, but you give up the blank, you're about 3% worse, and if you get forced, you're about 2% worse. So at the end of the day, those outcomes are not really that different. So why not like try to push it, try to get a 2 and hopefully claw your way back into this game.
Well, you get a 2 here and a force in 7. You're 2 down coming home with last rock. 2 points, you get an extra end, and if you ever get 3, which, let's face it, even at the Briar, the Scotties, and the Worlds, we have seen that. People needing 3 for the win, and they get it. The 5 rock free guard zone does give you that opportunity. But if you blank, 6, I don't see where that's happening.
So this is kind of the situation that you were looking for. If you're Lorraine Schneider, you have the opportunity now to split the rings and play the hit. Now, if this was me, I would think it was maybe a little bit early to do that. I would think about possibly just guarding that one rock for as long as you can. As we've seen, they've been struggling with the hit, so if you are hitting this early to try and sit 2, then based on what we've seen, it might be a bit of a struggle to try and play 5 or 6 more precise hits to try and score your 2. So why not waste a couple rocks, throw up some guards? Ashley's just going to peel them. Then you only have to make 2 hits or 3 hits rather than 5.
I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I'd be playing the guard here, but what I will say is you can make your choice either way, whether you want to hit that stone and split the rings and try to hold it for your deuce. I saw her looking to see who's shot rock. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Either throw the corner guard, or if you feel you can keep the house split the whole end, go ahead and hit that rock. But it really doesn't matter who shot rock right here.
No, at the end of the day, you're going to have to hit that rock at some point. So it doesn't really, I guess maybe if it's not shot, you don't have to hit it later. But either way, it's not something that you have to deal with at this exact moment. That's sort of the kind of thinking that you need to go with. Just sort of make Ashley waste a couple shots with peeling these guards, and then you only have to make a couple precise shots rather than more than that.
Well, in my game, if you decide that you're going to try to hit it to split the ring, you're hitting it to split the ring, not because it's shot rock. So that doesn't matter. You would have the house really well split if you hit that. It's probably a little early to do that because you'd have to hold it for a long time. And really, there's no bad outcome out of the corner guard. Even if you'd left her half and she was able to hit that rock, you come around the corner guard.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of struggles by the Schneider team on that side of the sheet with their hits to begin with. We talked about how many rocks undercurled last end on them.
True.
So it looks like, can Ashley, did this guard over curl maybe a little bit, or maybe it's just so high that...
I don't mind this, even if you leave her the shot on the rock in the rings and she makes the hit and rolls out, she can come around the corner, and you've got her playing a tougher hit if she's going to go after that rock, because she definitely can't see all of it.
And we'll just wreck on the guard, so it does the job. It's essentially a peel. Now we'll see if the blue rock happens to stick around. It looks like it maybe just went went about one turn too far, so
stays in the rings, but it is third shot. Now there'll be a little bit of a discussion. I don't hate trying to draw to one of those two blue ones now. If you're close to either one of them, Ashley Howard's going to go hit the open one for now.
Yeah, I agree. Either way, I mean, if you end up freezing, if you freeze the back one, you might leave a double off of the red on the side. So you could try and freeze the other one. Granted, it is above T-line, but you don't have to be perfect. You could just sort of bump it behind the T, and then it might be something that Ashley could jam on. Regardless, I think she's walking over and hitting the one that's wide open, but
yeah, no, I think you're right. I think she's going to hit the open one no matter what. And I don't even have to bump this. If you just freeze half on it, even if you're not shot rock now, but if you're half frozen, you could always hit that and roll both red stones into the middle later on. You just want to put a rock here in a spot where it's going to be difficult for Ashley Howard to make any kind of play to remove it. And I thought she was drawing that way, but this looks like the guard.
Yeah, and I don't hate that either. I think you can get away with possibly one more guard, but I think you will have to decide or deal with something in the rings, probably on the next shot. Sweepers have not really looked at this. This could be a little solid.
Boy, the minute that was over curling like that, I thought maybe they'd sweep it for a little bit of a bite. Looks like it still protected a fair piece of it.
And one of the nice things that it does come so tight, it sort of
takes that hack waiter away.
Yeah, exactly. Now it does make the run back double a little bit easier, and because it's so tight, even if they don't make it, Carrie-Anne may be able to just hit and roll into the 8-foot, which would cause more problems.
The question is if they're really worried about the run back, or if they'd like to get the hit and roll in. I'm surprised they didn't sweep that. You roll in a little farther, you're sitting 2, and does that rock even matter anymore?
Yeah, either one. I think you got to go try to make the double if you're going to overcurl, but if it's not going to get there, yeah, try and sweep and hit and roll in and give Lorraine another rock to deal with. That one, where it ended up, really, it got rid of the guard, so that red rock is wide open, but it's not really doing a whole lot for you.
No. Might give you something if you're playing that that red stone that's in the side of the 8-foot now. If that's the rock you're hitting on the next one, you do have your own rock to roll behind.
See if they figured out this side of the sheet where the broom needs to come down. Looks like similar ice to what they were taking last end. Once again, sweeping, trying, oh, no, they've switched now. So it looks like it should be close.
Makes the hit right on the nose. As long as that's in far enough to be second shot, it's good. But I'm not sure it is.
I'm not convinced. No, I think it maybe needed to come up just another quarter inch. Now that being said, Ashley does need to be careful. As you said, she could use that rock top 12 to roll behind. If she doesn't, though, that other stone is so far back in the rings that could always be the chance for some kind of thin double for Larissa Murray to score a couple.
I have to think they're trying to roll behind their own. Even if they don't try to roll dead buried, just roll half underneath. Force her to play the straight back double, then she won't be shot rock. Ashley Howard with a 3-point lead here as we play in the sixth. Yes, if she gives up 2, it's not the end of the world, but the way this is shaping up right now, she's got a chance to force here.
And a force could more or less put this game on ice, being up 2 with the hammer with 2 minutes to play. Obviously still lots of work to do, but would be a great position to put yourself in.
Yeah, that opens up all kinds of possibilities playing the 7th. You're not even panicked about a blank. If you get forced to 1 and 7, well, this is going right by everything.
Oh.
And I don't know whether did that pick or something. It did, because we didn't see a big panic sweep. It was like it was almost gone before they had a chance to put a brush down.
Yeah, I'm just sort of watching the replay here. It was mostly looked like a heavy clean for the first half and then came on, so maybe caught a little bit by the curl, but they definitely didn't maybe seem panicked by it. Of course, we can't hear them, so it's possible they were.
Well, suddenly a chance for Larissa Murray to hit that back stone and sit 3.
Yeah, this could be the chance to put all those sort of missed shots behind you and move into a strong half here.
Well, and if she can hit it, stay right there. There's probably the one long across the house double, but it's, with that much distance between the rocks, it's never a gimme. So it won't be any easy doubles to cut the end down for Ashley Howard either. Again, nothing out of the brushers. This has got to curl if she's going to stick around. This might have to curl just to make contact. She does clip the stone, but again, loses the shooter.
And that's the nth rock. Missed high side there for down. That's basically that same path for the last 2 or 3 ends have sort of been the bane of Team Schneider's existence.
So opportunities being handed back and forth here. Another chance now for Ashley Howard, if she can get the roll behind her own stone, would force Larissa Murray to play a double if she wants to get her deuce, and it won't necessarily be an easy double either.
Looks like they're going to have a bit of a team discussion here. I'm not entirely sure what the...
Might have been a timeout, and it
kind
of might have been signaled from behind the glass, and they've agreed to it. So here comes the coach. And the coach, a couple people at home might have heard of him. It's Russ Howard. This is where I really wish we had the mics on them.
Russ, of course, 2006 Olympic gold medalist.
I think all the discussion here will be about just making sure they're aware of where they want to roll with this stuff. I don't think any thought about playing any different shot. This is the hit you want to play, but if you roll dead behind this stone, you actually probably make her double. As not that any double is ever a gimme, but that's probably the easiest double that she could make to still get 2, because then she has to hit the first one off the nose a little bit, and that should roll her into the rings.
And we've seen, I was a bit surprised to see the timeout, because I think, the shot call itself is fairly straightforward, but you're probably right. I mean, if you're going to miss this a little bit, I probably would be more inclined to overroll slightly, maybe even if you're edge on edge with the blue rock on the center line side. We've seen Team Schneider's struggles with that outturn on that side of the sheet with not getting enough curl. So I think if you're going to force them into something other than the double, that might be the shot.
Yeah, I think you'd want to roll half under anyway, but it's your pick as to which way. I just think dead buried lets her hit it just off the nose. She makes the double and she rolls in, and now, you know, I don't think she can hit it just off the nose on the board side. I think she'd roll out. Okay, for sure.
Looks like, are they changing to the outturn hit? I thought I saw a broom come down, but now they're talking about it a bit more. So.
You will get a little bit more action with an outturn, rolling that in the direction of the turn. But this is not a long roll that you're looking for either.
Looks like they are switching to the outturn. Bit surprising. I can't think of when they might have thrown this shot. They've thrown a couple draws off the center line, but...
And some heavy draws. I don't mind the call. And with that ice, I still think they're playing it fairly quiet.
I agree. I thought, you know, they might be able to make the adjustment just because she just threw the intern hit. Granted, she did flash it, but, you know, you have some information to go with that you can just sort of throw the same shot and make whatever adjustment you need to make. But clearly they feel, after talking with Russ, they feel confident in playing this. And you're right, with this turn, you do get a bit more of a kick action towards the stone you're trying to roll behind.
Well, if you throw this really quietly, then that little kick action can help you. Again, nothing out of the brushers. They're close. Looking for some curl now. Makes the hit, but just enough to get it out. Yeah, a lot of weight. I thought with that ice they were probably throwing a little quieter hit.
So at the end of the day, it will be a draw to the 8-foot for Larissa Murray. See if she can get that confidence back in that draw weight. She has struggled to put her draws in good spots.
She did have a chance for this draw. I'm trying to think, was it 2 ends ago? I know it was the even end, and just came up full 12. If she threw the same shot here, that would be enough to get her deuce this time, but she'd probably like to have a little bit more room for letting the sweepers back off on it.
And if you're the sweepers, you definitely want to try and put this right on the button if you can. Give your skip some confidence that if she has to do it again later, she knows what the weight is. And it doesn't seem like they hate it all that much, so I think it should be close.
Well, they didn't touch it most of the way, and now backing away a little bit. It'll come to rest in the back four, and that'll be good enough for Larissa Murray to get her 2 points, maybe get some confidence back with that as well. Closes the score to within 5-4. As we go into the 7th minute play, it'll be Ashley Howard's last rock. Seventh end underway here from the Curling Stadium Martensville International. Lorraine Schneider, after picking up 2, nice draw with fourth thrower Larissa Murray's final stone. They closed to within 1. Gonna have to try here a little bit to get a steal or at least the force here. They certainly can't afford to see a blank end. So they've thrown up 1 center guard already, and now looking for the second one.
And it'll be interesting to see if you're Team Schneider how you want to play this. With the scoreboard the way it is, of course, you're looking at stealing 2 ends, 7 and 8, or if you blank here, you could also steal 8 in the extra. You could force Ashley here and possibly get your 2 in 8 and steal the extra, or I think you've sort of alluded to earlier in the game that certainly a 3 in the 8th end is no stranger with the 5 rock roll. So probably your best course of action, I mean, stealing 2 ends in a row is extremely tough. So probably what you're looking for here is to get a force, try and get a 2. If you end up getting a 3 to win it in 8, that's great. But at least try to tie it up, and then you only have to steal the extra.
Yeah, I would agree. That's probably your best course of action. We certainly have seen it enough times that 8th or 10th ended international play that needing 2 to tie and 3 to win, those 3s happen.
And I was looking back at the previous results between these 2 teams. Ashley Howard holding a 2-1 career advantage over Lorraine Schneider with wins back in 2019 and 2021. But Lorraine Schneider won their last meeting in December of 2021. So, and all of those games were decided by a single point. So certainly no strangers to close games these 2.
And that a totally different team for Ashley Howard as well. Is no holdovers on her squad. It's a completely new squad. Well, with the 2 center guards, Ashley Howard not yet able to field them. Asks for one around to the top 4-foot. Now we're going to see the freeze attempt by Ashley Williamson.
Try that again. Okay. Same weight.
And then I don't think it matters where this rock stops. We're going to see the peel attempt start. Got a little bit of an angle there. You could make the play at the double peel, and you do risk running that red back into the 2 in the rings. But as long as you cleared the middle, you'd be okay with that right now.
Or even if you miss the double peel, just go by there. There's that blue over on the side. That's a jam possibility as well.
That's a possibility, yeah.
I think you want to make sure that you make some noise on that second guard. Even if you end up nosing it and sort of doubling them off that way, that's probably better than risking any sort of jam.
They're angling just by the second guard and misses the blue in the corner of the 12-foot as well. So just the single field. The shooter rolls out of play. Ashley Williamson will be asked to play a long guard on the 3 in a line on the center line now.
And I think we're going to be seeing this for a little bit. Definitely just keep tossing up that guard. Eventually you'll have to come in, maybe make a slight tap on the rocks in the 4-foot, but just keep trying to put rocks up and hope you...
Plan B already, because this is heavy.
I like this where, like, as I'm talking about what we're likely going to see happen, it seems to always completely change as they're throwing the rocks.
I saw somebody holding a hand up right away and knew it was heavy. Now she does get everything dead in line, and really Lorraine can still work as a guard on this ice. So she's got decent separation between that one and the longer guard. There's no easy double there.
And they will get the chance to. I think if we see Ashley Howard continue to just peel that guard over and over again, eventually that's a really short run back. You can sort of, not to say you have to throw weight at it and remove the blue from play. You could play a little double bump and push something behind the T line as well, but definitely not a bad setup shot.
Do you ever suggested if she knew she could make it that good, she might have called that?
I don't know if I'll go that far. I mean, I think if you're going to go into the rings, I would have liked to seen it frozen if you could have. But again, it's something usable, and I think we'll see a few waste shots here. Just continue throwing up the guard and forcing Ashley to peel them. But eventually, it's in a great position.
Yeah, the one thing that has done now with that rock in the 12 foot essentially being your tight guard, it becomes a lot easier to separate the guards now for the rest of the end and not leave an opportunity for the double peel.
So the only question here is, how long would you wait if you're the Schneider team? Usually, you sometimes see that switch around Weiss's second rock, but I think you might be able to wait a little bit longer with the position. I don't think there's too much of risk of Ashley switching before you and tossing up a guard, so you might be able to wait till Larissa's first rock. But you do risk the opportunity if you keep throwing these guards. Eventually, Ashley could switch and guard up herself. She is the shot stone.
Yeah, I don't think with last rock, I don't think there's any chance Ashley Howard ever throws a guard here. Not on the center line. Again, they came in a little too deep with that guard and left some angles, so there might be a chance to get a couple of rocks moving. You don't even mind if this makes contact with those two stones that are frozen. Yes, you'd lose your own stone, but it's not really helping you right now.
No, right now the rock you're really worried about is that rock top 8 for the Schneider team, and you're never going to be able to get rid of it if it continues to be frozen to that blue stone. So losing it would be a very good outcome, I think.
Looking at ignoring the guard and making a play on the stone in the top 12, but I'm not sure she can see enough of that to jiggle the two in the house. I might be tempted to try to move 2 or 3 off the guard, but if she thinks she can see enough to clip it on the way by, even if you could just touch it just to break that for ease, I guess she could see more than half. It might be enough.
Either way, even if you don't get it, just get rid of this rock, roll over to the wings. Eventually, Lorraine Schneider will have to come down and make some kind of a play or tap on those 2 stones, and if she ever tries that, you might leave a double. Now,
she did have enough to touch it.
Yeah. I think that's a spectacular outcome. I think you're incredibly happy with that if you're Ashley Howard. Yes, you've left them as shot stone, but you keep 3 stones around the rings, and the opportunity, if you ever get a bit of a missed shot, you still have the opportunity to see that red rock and remove it from play.
Well, the way it was sitting, you needed 2 shots to get that red one out. Now you've made the first one, which makes that stone a lot more vulnerable. And of course, when we're talking about on the other side of it, Lorraine Schneider looking to force here. She wants to force her. She would probably prefer not to force her to 2 or 3.
I think, yeah, we can take that one off the table.
And that's the problem right now, because where everything came to rest, Ashley Howard is sitting 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
So definitely, I mean, granted, if Team Schneider makes all their shots and you put them in good spots, you should be able to avoid the big score. Now, that being said, we have seen some struggles on the sheet. So if you ever get sort of a half shot and you leave it open, now suddenly, yeah, that 3 or 4 is a big risk for them.
I want to say this call is easy because you're playing the guard, but I'm not sure they're playing the guard. Some of that I'm basing on the way they've played the rest of the game. I'm not sure whether they were trying to come around everything or if they were playing the guard and it was just a little heavy. Regardless, that's not a good result. Leave the double.
Oh, I mean, as I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think of a worse spot where you could have put that stone, but I'm not coming up with anything. It leaves pretty straightforward nose double here.
Yeah, I don't know if hogging it could have been any worse.
Regardless, a big opportunity here for the Howard team to really lay the pressure on it. Looks very close.
Makes the double, keeps her shooter right there. Now, where's the second stone going to get? They could have been on that a little bit, hit a little thinner. They didn't get the second stone out. And
yeah, I'm a bit surprised. And we have seen that a couple times in the games that we've been watching where rocks just don't seem to maybe move as much or go as far as people are expecting them to, especially on the hits. Maybe the striking bands are
certainly not when they're going out sideways.
absolutely,
They don't
yeah.
seem to go across the house very well. You could have hit that a little bit on the outside, though, made sure you had the double. And yeah, I get you wanted to keep that rock in a very powerful position, but if it rolls 6 inches, it's still a pretty good spot.
Well, that's the
I think they're
thing.
sitting 2. I think blue is sitting 2, but it's close.
I think you're right, but at the same time, I mean, they were sweeping that one to curl, so clearly Ashley thought it was going to be good enough to make the double, and unfortunately just moved up that hair too much at the end now. Still a tough shot here coming for Team Schneider. I believe they're going to try and make the hit and roll behind the center. If you hit it, might be possible even to make the double while you do that.
Comes up just enough. No, it's going to drive it by the one at the back, so stone at the back appears to be sitting shot rock right now. And I think Ashley Howard's got third as well, so she could make a play on second to sit 3 and force the Schneider team to make a decision.
And the only problem with that is, are you really necessarily worried about this rock on the side of G? Yes, sitting 3 is good, but it would give Team Schneider the sort of free opportunity to do something in the center. So you have to sort of decide, is that rock that's top 12? Yes, it might not be shot, but is that sort of what's more important to you to get rid of? Is that the one that's in your way more than sitting 3? I'm not sure what the right answer is. It probably comes down to what you're most comfortable with, but
well, to some extent it comes down to what's your opposition going to play, and they'll never tell you the truth either. You could turn around and ask them, what are you going to play if I hit this? And they'll lie.
Well, yeah, because there's many opportunities for Schneider. If you hit that one over on the side, they could just play the straight come around. They have a tap. You could come around both sides, actually. Likely they'll leave some kind of double off that stone in the top of the 12-foot, but depending on where you can put it, you can make it pretty tricky.
Here's the thing: if you hit this rock sit 3, and she does make a tap or a come around, whichever, she's going to have to play some kind of a draw. I'm almost positive she's not hitting anything because she'll be at the point where she pretty much needs to steal. If Ashley Howard makes the double with her last one, the game's over.
Right.
And that might be part of the thinking. If you hit this, if she makes a good draw, you've got a double for the win, and if you don't make it, you're tied up coming home with that.
Which I think if you go into any game and you tell someone, hey, if you want to be, I'll let you be the last end tied with hammer, I think anybody's going to take that. So.
Yeah. Well, and you're still forcing Larissa Murray to make some kind of a draw, whether it's a tap or whether she comes around wide on the out turn. She's got to make a come around draw. Really, against the game, she's got to make a draw for her life. I don't think you mind putting that kind of pressure on her. This has got to curl if it's going to stick around. Makes the hit, but will lose the shooter. Still sits shot 3rd and 4th. It's still the same situation. If Lorraine Schneider plays the draw and you make the double, the game's over because it's still going to be at least 3.
The only bad thing about rolling out there is your double is going to be for 3 instead of 4. Yeah. Either way, it's still probably shaking hands, but.
So it looks like they've decided on the straight come around. Probably easier than the tap. I guess the only thing you might discuss with the tap, I'm just looking at it, I just don't think there's room. If you thought there was room to split it and sit 2 and go back to the force, that's one thing, but it would be tough to get both rocks in because the one blue kind of in your way to roll the shooter in.
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced the split is there. The other good thing about this draw is if you're drawing behind the guard, that double is a bit more on an angle. Whereas if you're playing that straight tap, you're likely tapping it straight back, and then it's a nose double rather than, you know, a half rock or whatever it might be if you make this one really well.
Well, if you ever whisker over curl the tap back, it's an open hit.
Absolutely, yeah.
Larissa Murray with her final stone here in the 7th inch. She's had a few struggles with draw weight, but made a nice one for the deuce in 6. Needs to duplicate that shot here to put some pressure on. Rushers seem to like the weight. She's got room by the guard.
Now they're backing off.
Yeah, I was just thinking we saw Ashley Howard draw here, looking for the second point 2 ends ago, and it slid a little deeper than they thought it was going to, too. This one comes to rest. It is shot rock, but back 8 foot. Well, if anything, she's made the double really tough.
I was going to say, if you were going to leave a double, that's probably the longest one you could have left on the sheet. So
I wonder if you couldn't just follow that down and move it 6 inches and make sure you got at least 2. She had plenty of room by the guard.
For sure you could. One thing you do have to be careful with this hit, I mean, I think you'll probably throw it pretty safe to make sure you hit it high side. If you ever hit it a hair low, though, could jam it onto that back blue, and you are possibly risking the steal of 2. Now, that's a worst case scenario, and I think, you know, they're smart enough to throw it to make sure you avoid that, but it is something you bring into play. I do agree. I think with the curl we've been seeing, you might have to play it pretty tight to that guard, but I think with just through weight, you could probably go back and make the bump. And like you said, if you ever do happen to just whisker the guard, then you're tied with him.
Really, if you come through and bump it, you're going to get, you don't have to move it very far to get 2, and you only have to move it about a foot to get 3. I think all you're getting off this double, if you make it anyway, is 3, because I don't think your shooter's going to beat the one on the side. We're going to find out in about 6 seconds. Let's come up just a little bit. She's close. Oh, they might have lost it on the sweep. She actually jams it. So it will be a steal of 1. They needed to put a few brush strokes on that. We're all tied. Well, 8th end just about to get underway here. Ashley Howard within a whisker of making a double. It could have ended the game in the 7th. And, you know, it's one of those ones where you have to think that they didn't quite have the right idea where they needed to hit it, because they needed to put a few brush strokes on that, and it really never looked like they called the brush on at all. So probably thought they were hitting that just a little thin yet, and ends up jamming it.
And as we alluded to before, these skips have a history of close games against each other, and we're right in another one here, tie game in the last end. So likely going to see Ashley Howard attempt to make the tick here. Something we were not able to see at the World Championships last year, although this one isn't on the center line, so would have been able to tick it there.
And again, this is a brand new team this year. They might not have had a lot of chance to practice this yet.
It does maybe just a little bit heavy, sails right by.
Did everything they could to get that last little bit of curl, but not able to make contact. So a chance to throw a second guard now. They'll look to bring this a little tighter in behind the first one.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that first rock is slightly off center. There's nothing you can really do about that. You just have to throw a second guard right behind it.
Yeah, you really want to keep these in line, because eventually, when the Howard team can start playing double peels, you don't want them to have angle to work with.
Right. The ideal way you'd love to play out this end is you just keep leaving at most only single peels for the Howard team, and then eventually probably on Larissa Murray's first shot, you're able to draw around into a really good spot in the forefoot. Now it looks like they are going to take on the tick again. A little bit surprising. Sometimes when you see they miss the first tick, they switch gears and instead take the opportunity to put a rock in a good spot first in the top of the forefoot. But this is probably something that they've discussed, how they want to play out these last ends. So decide to go with the tick again. They might get the back rock.
Yeah, looking at the either or here, I think. Probably buy the top one. Makes contact with the second, and I think it stopped in time. I can't. Nope, it did. Touches the boards. I had too many feet in the way. I couldn't tell.
So that rock will go back, and now you don't have to wait till the skips rocks. You're probably looking to put a rock in a really good spot right now.
You can't be playing. We'll have to talk to these girls. We're going to play the tick shot. You can't play it towards the side of the sheet with the cameras on, because then all the feet are in the way and we can't tell the touch. You have to play it to the other side of the sheet. So Ashley Williamson with the draw attempt.
Ideally, I think you'd love to just bite the button here. Full top four, bite button, dead behind the guards. And if Ashley's team can't come up with a double peel at some point in the end, I think you're going to be pretty happy with what you're left.
Comes to rest back 8 foot, but does seem to be buried completely behind the tighter of the two guards, I think.
And it's not the end of the world if Howard's team can't come up with a double peel. You'll probably have another opportunity to throw another stone into the forefoot, but they are able to get both rocks removing. That's not where you want to put that stone.
Does just drive it by the closer of the two guards. Now the decision time, Matthew. Do you come in again now, or do you play another high guard?
I think if this was me, I'd probably play. I would say almost another two guards. That one guard that you have right now is in such a good position. You have lots of space to get lots of separation. Just throw it up nice and high. Really try and delay coming in, because as soon as you come in, you give Team Howard the opportunity to play a run back, or, I mean, they're never going to play the freeze this early in the end, but if you don't put this in a good spot, you're running out of guards up there, so.
Well, they elect to come in and make a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean,
I would have been with you. I'd have thrown it up high, and then I might even have thrown 3 more. Ashley Howard, nothing really to lose by going after the run through, as long as you don't dead stuff it. You know, even if you just drive it by the one in the house, you're still going to roll over a little bit.
Absolutely. I was thinking if you'd almost wait till Skip's first rock to make that draw, but they've decided to do it now, and granted they put it in pretty much the perfect spot, but now the chance for the run back here for Sarah Anglin.
That's a decent result. I mean, she's given herself more room, and the stone that's left in the forefoot is accessible from the intern side.
Not far off from what you were saying is the one thing they couldn't do, though.
Yeah, no, you didn't want to dead stuff it, but you did give yourself more room now if you had to draw on your last one. Again, I think you could ask the same question here. Are you coming in here, or are you throwing another guard? That looks like the same ice they played for the come around.
Yeah, and I think you you definitely can still throw the guard. In some ways, you've sort of skipped yourself into a corner here. If it was me, I'd be throwing the high guard all day. I mean, there wouldn't really be a question about it. I don't know where you can put this rock that's going to be that much more beneficial for you. If it was your skips first, sure, you can try and lock one down, grab a piece of the button, but I think coming into the rings here now, Team Howard is running back their own color, which is just that much easier for them. So I think the guard is the call, and I think that is what you need to do, at least for 1 or 2 more shots.
If you're going to throw the guard, you want as much separation as you can get. It looks like she's got a nice shot here. Oh, didn't quite get it over the hog line. Well, that didn't look like a panic sweep for that either.
Just looking back at the replay, they didn't really start sweeping that until halfway down the sheet. So, and I mean, we've seen that, you know, there's been some struggles with draw weight from the Schneider team, and just coming down to those small, minute changes. It seems like we've seen a lot of overcompensation like that. Now, this is obviously a lot more visible, where you throw the hog rock and then you try to overcompensate, you end up slipping into the rings, but just missing that little bit of that finesse touch that I think they were probably hoping to see. So something to work on moving forward throughout the rest of the season. Just making sure you're making those minute adjustments to put those draws into good spots.
Well, and Carrie-Ann McTaggart with a nice double has now really opened up the house area down to Skip Stones.
And now if you're Ashley...
I'm not sure what the Schneider team's calling here, whether they're just playing one more center guard and hoping for a mistake.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to, right? Just keep throwing guards until your skips last and try and figure out the best spot to put that one.
Yeah, probably.
First shot here from Marissa Murray. Likely, I think probably just trying to throw a tight center guard. We'll see the Howard team walk up and peel it, and then you have to figure out where the best spot is to put your last rock. Looking forward, it really comes down to team preference. Of you have to figure out what you want the other skip to throw. If it's a hit, you can try and cheat a little bit more towards the center of the rings and try and coax them into throwing a hit. If you want to make her draw, you try and figure out how close can you go to the center where she'll still draw without giving her just an open hit.
It may well depend what happens here, because they brought that in a little too far, and I think what Ashley's looking at is to make the double over the top on the back one and roll the shooter into the rings. And if she can do that, she could play any kind of hit on her last one and wouldn't have to stay. Right. And I think that's what they're looking at. I think they're looking at the double and rolling.
And I think whenever, I found myself in this position, I always tried to decide before we even got to my last rock, what was I going to throw? Whether it was going to be a draw to the forefoot or a hit. And if you've already sort of talked yourself into the draw, then you probably don't think about making this double here, because you're probably not worried about that rock back 12. And as I say that, she just goes over the top.
She was definitely trying it, because they didn't sweep that. And it just, on the safe side, she wasn't going to throw it so light that she curled up and hit it on the nose. But
absolutely. So now it's decision time. Yep, decision time here for Team Schneider.
Well, and I think your choices are you try to put it almost in exactly the same place she just was, because a nose hit wouldn't be shot rock and you'd be in the way of the draw path, or do you just draw to the wings somewhere in a position, and then it's a question of how close can I get to the forefoot before she decides to hit it? What's the cutoff point? Where is she going to draw? Where's she going to hit it? And then, which, like as you said, which one do you want her to play? I certainly think if you're drawn towards the middle like this, you're not trying to put it in the forefoot.
No, I think the call here is definitely to basically maybe just bite the 8 foot, but definitely leave it high enough in the 12 where she doesn't have the nose hit. I was always sort of a bit more.
Bite the 8 to do that. I think you can be just full 12. I think if you're playing this way.
For sure. I was always a bit more biased on these shots to sort of maybe draw to the wing. You have a bit more space weight-wise that way, and you're still cutting down the area. I mean, if you're putting one top 12, you're not really cutting down most of the draws with what we've seen with how much curl there is in the sheets, but it does put a rock.
You go towards the wing and there's a cutoff point. You know, if we just bite the forefoot, maybe she
Yeah.
hits it. But if we're 6 inches farther over, maybe she decides she better draw. There's a cutoff point. You don't know what it is. Your opposition knows what it is.
And I think all you can do is just ask yourself, what do we want them to throw? What do you think you have the better chance at winning with? And once you've decided that, you figure out how far you want to go. And it's kind of like I was saying, when you throw those shots to the center, you have very little wiggle room with the weight. So you slip just that little bit deep. Most times in the game, that's probably a pretty good shot. But here, you slip that foot deep when they've already been struggling with their draws most of the game, and now it's just a wide open hit for the win.
Yeah, I think that's too deep. Even if she hit it a little off the nose and jammed it, I think she's still shot.
This is all about weight control. Just throw a weight where you're very unlikely to roll out, even if you hit it a little off the nose. Whatever you know best. I was always kind of like bored on these kinds of shots, but I'm sure she's thrown a couple rocks in this spot already this game. She has a weight in her mind that she's comfortable with, and I think she'll be close.
Well, I don't think we're having an extra end.
that would be a treat.
I don't see a double and roll out here. You just don't see that happening.
Well, it's 1 a.m. where I am, so if we end up going to an extra, I think you'll be on your own.
Well, I'm back on for the morning draw.
Last shot in the game here for Ashley Howard, looking to make a nose hit, take a 6-5 win, and move herself to a 1-3 record.
Rusher's cleaning early, now starting to cross that center line. She'll come up, catches the nose, does jam it back, but again, as I said, that draw slid in a little too deep, even with the jam. Ashley Howard picks up shot rock at the top of the 8-foot. That's the single point she needs for the win. And well, Ashley Howard, coming into this draw with 3 losses already, did what she needed to do to keep herself alive. She picks up the win, pulls that Schneider team back to 3 losses. We know there's another team coming back to 3 losses tonight. She's going to need some help tomorrow, but she goes back to the hotel tonight knowing they're still alive, and that's the best you could do for the Howard team. A game of opportunities handed back and forth. Ashley Howard takes advantage of the last one. She picks up the win. We want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. My name is Sean Joyce. I've been joined by Matthew Hall. We certainly enjoyed this game. I hope you did as well. A full day's action yet tomorrow before the playoffs on Monday. 4 draws tomorrow. They'll all be available for you here on Curling Stadium from Martensville.